YouTube. It's Petey Twofinger, part 3 of my open mic series. This is going back many years. I would join these bands. I was playing bass, and they would not really have a good singer. And when I came, I elevated the band. I brought new material in, and then they were like, "Well, now we're legit. We could actually do a gig. So let's get rid of this chump, our friend, who can't really sing, and try to put an ad in the local thing and audition for a singer." And that would usually not pan out very well. We would get people who would never really should be they around any type of microphone, meaning they sing flat and sharp, horrible singers. They come all dressed up like rock stars, but they suck, But you look good. So I would say, well, I got this guy. He can sing, he can dance, but he drinks. And we would bring my pal, we'll call him Danny. We'd bring Danny in, and Danny would end up stepping up to the mic and then looking down and projectile vomiting on his shoes. Then waking back up and singing Born to Be Wild with vomit all over his feet. Or, falling, running, stumbling sideways at a 45-degree angle until he hit a stack of speakers and knocking all the amps over on the stage. Stuff like that. And then I would get let go. It would be like, you two, out the door, out the window, because I was bringing a six-pack to practice, and because I was his friend who had brought him in. So I was in way too many bands. I was in around 30, 35, or between 32 and 35 bands in my entire career, because I mentally added that up when I was like around 25 or 26. Now, don't get me wrong, these weren't chart-topping, successful bands. Most of these bands never played a show, but the bands that did played some clubs, a lot of parties, and a lot more rehearsals. But we did some like festival-type stuff on huge stages that had proper lighting. This thing called the All-Star Jam that we went to every year that had multiple bands. So I've been around and I know about playing. And anyway, we're in this band, and we get a call. We had done a full day. Well, okay, here's how it worked. Danny and I and another guy who was a drinker that was our friend, who was our sound man, were left with a task after a gig to drive this giant utility truck that had the gear in it, because the guy who owned the business was mega loaded. He built houses. He was a housing developer. And here we are at this kegger drinking all day, and then they're like, "You're driving the thing home." For some reason, I had to take the sound man and Danny, and I had to drive because neither one of those guys had licenses. And I had been drinking off the keg all day, and it's just like nighttime. So they're drunk, and they've got to pee every 5 minutes, and then they want more beer. Well, on the way home, we stopped at a bunch of places to try to buy them beer because they were starting to crash. We couldn't find any beer. And we stopped at a McDonald's and got some food because one of them wanted food. And we were like maybe, and I went slow because I'm driving this giant truck. So we were like an hour and a half later than these guys who had flown home. And it's a long way anyway. It's an hour and a half drive anyway. So we're like 3 hours on the road, and we came pulling in, and the guy who owned the business went nuts on me. "Where the F have you been? You fell asleep. Something I didn't. It wasn't that I fell asleep. We played Gloria at the end of the show, which is open da 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 on the bass, and they used to drag it out for 17 minutes, and I hated it. They did a medley of a couple of songs in there, and I hated it. So at one time I brought a sack lunch. I brought an apple, a peanut butter and jelly, and chips. And I started by checking my watch. Then I was combing my hair because I could play it with one hand. I could just pick it, and then my left hand I would do other things. And then eventually I got the lunch out and ate that on stage, mocking of how long this song was. Well, they brought that up, and they accused me of falling asleep on stage, or cutting my nails, something that I didn't do. They said it was because I was drunk. They said that, and it was planned out. It was a planned thing that I did because I kept complaining about doing it. Anyway, they brought that up, which was like 2 years in the past, and then they fired everybody, which later on they brought the sound man back. which really kind of irked me because, and that was the end of that band. And that drummer couldn't keep time anyway. He had no internal clock. Anyway, years later, that sound man, Danny and me are. Danny has a house that's turned into a music house with a rehearsal spot in the basement. We had an OD where a guy died there. It was a real music house. Everyone was tattooed, and there was little kids running around. It was just a mess. And we had a full studio in the basement, a rehearsal studio. So we play all day, and we've got like 35 songs and a shit pile of 15, and backup singers, the whole deal. We got a roadie. We're good band. And we get a call. Here it's one of the guys that fired us. And he says, I need a singer. And it's for a big deal, like you can't be drinking. It's a huge Catholic church in the city in Chicago. And it's snowing. So he's like, we just need a singer. So the singer doesn't have a license. So I go to drive the singer, and the sound man decides to come along. So it's those same three of us, and they're drinking in the car. We got a bottle of vodka. So we get to this place, and it's unbelievable. It's a huge gymnasium, beautiful old Catholic facility, multiple buildings. And there's a stage that's chin height, and they've got a massive PA system, and it's louder. We're out in the parking lot, and it's like the concrete is shaking. It's so loud. And I'm like, this is going to be unbelievable. This is going to be so great. Because we had kind of sobered up. This wasn't the vodka day. We had eaten some food and gotten ready and sobered up, and we're just sipping beers. So we go in this place, and it's like the best PA at the time that I had ever played on. And I'm telling the other guys, I'm like, holy cow, this is going to be so awesome. So we get up there. We had our lead guitar player. We had almost everybody there, and because there was another. There's a couple of these. They called us for singer incidents, and that'll be another video. So we go up there. I'm incredibly stoked because we've got a decent set and we're well rehearsed. We had played all day, and we start playing, and the PA is barely on. The guys had turned us all the way down, and you could just hear our amps, and the vocals were maybe the lead guitar, the lead vocal, he had just cracked that up on the PA, and you couldn't hear us. So of course we gave a lackluster performance, and we got off the stage, and they went back up there, cranked that PA back up, and played Radar Love. Bum, 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 bum. And they're all dancing around and shaking their butts, and just like they had all their earrings and all the rock and roll, Coke spoon necklaces, and they were just like Radar Love. Bum, 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 bum. You take a solo, keyboard, and then the bass, on the drums. It's just like we're better than you. You guys are chumps. And I could not believe it. I literally could not believe it. I'm like, the idea that those guys would take that PA and just bring it all the way down, and that nobody would notice. Everyone would just be like, wow, that one band, they weren't really that good. But the house band, because they pulled the PA all the way down. Like, they completely killed they had some subs. This is back when subs first came out. And the low end was unbelievable. The kick drum was like nothing I ever heard, and the bass guitar. And I was playing bass in that band, so I was really excited about that night. And at that point, I decided that I was going to, that was a thing with me where I thought, you know what, this you're never going to go anywhere playing with these guys. You go into a situation and this is how you're treated. Like, you guys are the cross-eyed kid that has red hair with the colic at school, comes in the first day at school and everyone's laughing behind your back. That's how everyone looks at your band, because the sound man guy who's the rhythm guitar player and the lead singer and you are drinking beer all the time. They're looking at you guys like you're all a bunch of alcoholics who are wastazoids who can't do anything. And yeah, I shouldn't have been drinking beer at every practice and drinking before the shows. That's unprofessional. But I was drinking a 6-pack. And we're talking over like 8 hours. And it turned into drinking 8 beers, then 12 beers, then 15. I'm not going to kid you. It got out of control with me. But I always was fine. We're talking over 12 hours on a full stomach. I never slurred my speech, and I never acted like something was up. Whereas these guys, the other 2 guys, they did. They got 2 beers in them, and they were schnockered, slurring their speech and acting weird and squinting their eyes and getting mean, Well, the sound man used to get mean. The other guy just got cocky. So that day was an epiphany for me that led me to making a promise to myself, which was this: you're never going to join another band to the end of your days unless you're playing lead guitar and you're picking all of the songs. Now, I broke that rule. I got a letter in the mail. I open it up. It's from a pastor at a local church. And I thought, oh, great. Everyone in the band is going to have their notes already. They're going to be rehearsed. So it's not going to be practicing at the rehearsals. They're going to know the stuff. And they're going to want to be together and do it all right. And then what I found was it was the same set of problems with all the rock and roll guys, minus the drugs and alcohol, only worse because each person was right because they were the ones that knew exactly what music God wanted to hear that Sunday. And it was different than the next guy, so they hated each other. And they would do stuff like pull sheet music out of your book. So you didn't that song was gone. Wonder what happened. And that's demonic. So I did that for 3 years, and I couldn't take it anymore. When they did that trick, and my wife and I were the ones that had put together the books for everyone. So I ended up leaving, and then a month and a half later, the worship leader, who was the main source of contention, the reason that I left, the guy who was pulling sheet music, and then calling me on the carpet for it. You need to have your stuff ready. And it was gone from everyone else's books, too. It was because I had taken an intro on it, and it was written in pencil. Because he wanted to do the intro. And the first time we did it, which was the first time he came, I said, oh, excuse me, but I've been doing an intro, and if you don't like it, you can take it. But just listen to me play the intro and hear it before you make a decision, because it's the one thing that I have in this, and I would like to keep it because it fits. But if you think it doesn't fit, you can take the intro. And I did that, and then we kept playing the song because it was one of the songs that he liked, and it bothered him to the point that he ended up just yanking that out of everyone's stuff because it had Leaf Takes an Intro written in there. And then when we came to do it one time, he knew he had pulled them, and he psychologically just said, it's rehearsal, you're supposed to come prepared and have the sheet music ready to go. And I could not believe it. So I didn't say anything, and as soon as it was over, I slammed my bass in my case and walked out, and I never came back. It was a shame, but I mean, I heard what kept going on at that place was people who unbelievably couldn't sing, who would scream into the mics and disgracefully. I kept saying, I can't hear me, because they want to be louder on the PA, because we would turn them down. So, I mean, I'm guilty of doing the same stuff. If somebody's horrible, you're going to get turned down. But so this video is not necessarily for those people who can't, you can't play or you can't sing. This video is for people who kind of can, but you're not going to fit in with those cream of the crop people who are running the thing. And usually the people who are running the thing are going to have psychological issues, which means they're going to feel the need to keep you down so they can bring themselves up because they've got some kind of insecurity complex. And that's what you're going to run into at open mics. Because the people who are running the open mics are the people who have that book that can play every song that you would ever play in a bar band or in a wedding. And those are the people that you're going to get. They're not talented. They can't really. They will have my little album where they tried to write their own music and write some originals, and there'll be some kind of song that's dirty about sex. Like an instrumental called Sweet 69, something where they're not, where they, they sample a porno or some. There'll be some like dirty song. There'll be some like, song about weed or something on there about alcohol, like where they're like, they just like showing where they're at. Like they smoked once and they couldn't handle it. So they've got it for the rest of their life. They got to chastise everyone who's ever smoked weed. And the fact that they're lonely, so they write a dirty song. So these are the types of people you're going to run into, and I can see those people a mile away, and those are the people you really need to stay away from because they're psychos. If you're an honest person and you have a pure heart, they're going to see that a mile away, and they're going to do everything they can to mock you and to say stuff. And like if you have a girlfriend, they're going to say stuff right to her about you. Because they're home spanking it over your girlfriend. And these are the types of people you just don't want to be around. You don't want to be around those people. You're never going to go anywhere with those people. So if you're in a band and some of this stuff is making sense to you, I would encourage you to figure out what you need to do to make a decision, a promise, and start getting your own recording gear and start writing your own music. Free yourself from the curse that is this cover band mentality, that your career means you have to keep working a 9-to-5 job and go into debt on your credit card so you can buy the latest and greatest gear, so you can compete with these guys who are playing rock and roll all night and party every day. And can't you see what that woman's done to me? You're better than that, and you can write your own music. You can write basic rock instrumentals. You don't need to sing. And you don't need an audience either. Doesn't matter. Because you know what? What audience are you going to get if you sound great playing these covers? What's the end deal of that? I'll tell you what the end deal of that is. You're running an open mic. Alright, YouTube. If this makes sense to you and I can change one person's life and put that seed in there and plant that seed that leads to a career of someone writing their own original music, coming up with a solo CD, freeing them from that cycle of gassing of gear and having to compete in this bar band thing where there is no future. Because the other way, what I'm talking about of recording your own stuff, playing your own little shows for no one, that's ultimately way more rewarding than a bar gig. Doing what I've been doing, which is writing my own music and recording an album once a year, and then playing little outdoor shows where there's no audience, filming it and being able to watch that again, it's so much more professional. We're able to play songs in a row with no break, which I was never able to do in that bar band situation. Because usually what you'll find is band practice is just that. It's beer practice, and nobody knows their parts. They're practicing at the thing. And it's just an excuse to get together and drink. Or get high, smoke, whatever you're doing. And what I'm saying is, I've been through that, and the other way that I'm talking about is 10,000 times more rewarding. And that's my experience. And the whole open mic thing, what you need to do is go there and scout. don't worry about getting up and making music. Go there and scout. You can get up. Go ahead and get up. Just be leery, because they're not going to let you play what you want to play unless you have your own group of people to do it. Tonight, my wife and I are heading up to the Uptown Bar in Westmont. Pistol Pete's hosting an open mic. They're going to be starting out at 7:30, playing probably a 45-minute or 1 hour set, and it goes to midnight. We've got 7 songs on a MP3 that have drum loops, so if they permit us, are they going to let us plug into their little cheap PA? So we'll see what happens tonight, and I'll be back with the results of that story soon. In the meantime, I want you to check out a video of mine. Put the link in the description. The song is called Rock and Roll Night. I wrote the song the day after our band performed on the stage at the Catholic place where they turned the PA down. Okay. That song, Rock and Roll Night, is the second song on my second CD, which I'm really proud of. It deals with the loss of my fingers. It deals with the loss of my father. It deals with me facing some time on a trumped up marijuana charge for harvesting some ditchweed. So it's an angry album where I deal with loss. It's called Petey, Twofingers, Croc O'Pucky. I'm very proud of that album. This is a second cut. It's called Rock and Roll Night. It was on that disc. There's 3 short guitar solos in it, which I use 3 different sounds: guitar synth, homemade talk box, reverse delay, velocity sensitive octave flute through a big muff, and then a few years back I made a video for it, which you enjoy the video. I made it many years after the point, and I love the video. So let me know your thoughts and feelings about this, or should I do comments disabled? I love you guys, and I really hope that this didn't offend anyone. I'm going to leave the comments open. So maybe you're going to think, oh man, Petey's hypersensitive. Well, I am. But I also don't like being manipulated, and I don't treat people like that. I would never treat someone like that. The only time I would turn somebody down on a PA is if they deserved it. If they were awful, if they were ruining the mix. And probably what I would do is conspire against them to have the entire organization realize this and have a talk with them. And either they shape up or they get let go. And if the fact is that they naturally don't even have it, then there should be no talk. They should just get them out of there. All right, you guys. I love you. Wish me luck at the open mic tonight, and peace.